What's going on, everybody? My name is Seth and you're watching 252 Squad, and in today's video we're going to be back with the abandoned New Edge Mustang project, installing the Brembos from the last video, getting everything together, installed, and going over the S&S Engineering kit and how to install that on your New Edge Mustang, going along with the bleeding, the machining of the rotors, everything, what rotors we used, all of that information. So sit tight, get ready to learn some stuff.
1, 2, 3!
Alright, so in the last video you saw us start assembling the brake calipers for the New Edge. We got them all together right here. We're already got a car up in the air, started on it, taking everything apart. As far as the old original stuff goes, it's super easy. Some 15s pull the old calipers off, just take the old rotors off, everything like that. Get it down to base like this. I'm gonna show you how to put these new calipers together with the S&S kit and get them installed on the car. Alright, so the first step of assembling these calipers is taking your nice freshly painted caliper, taking a hammer and you hit the crap out of it. So we're gonna take the old bolt here, thread it in, so we can knock the factory inserts out. So just like that, knock the insert right out of it, and then now you can press in the S&S one. I'll show you that next. Definitely didn't just smack the piss out of the caliper. Don't tell my dad. Also, Dad, if you're watching this, you did not see that. It's on the back side, you'll never know.
Bro, I just freaking painted those.
Whoop-de-doo. Now we're gonna knock the other one out and get the inserts in. Good job, Seth, good job.
Don't hit my caliper this time.
We'll try not to. I hate your caliper. There we go. It's a little bit harder to knock out once you paint them, you know, kind of glues them into place. Now we'll install the S&S kit. So I've already got this one somewhat installed, and as you can see here, what we do is we got these lined up. I'm gonna have to readjust this one. So if you can see that top one right there, it's kind of hard to see because of the light, but this top line here is gonna actually line up straight here and across here, and then this top one here is gonna line up straight here. I got this one pretty close. This one's gonna be adjusted a little bit. I'm gonna have to take it back out. But the reason I pushed it in that far is because, as you can see, it's not all the way in, is because these holes here are actually off-centered. So on the other caliper, you can see I've kind of wallowed this one out using a drill bit and got it to where it's flush to where you can see the threads. On the other one, if I come back over here, you can see it's a perfect circle. So what's gonna happen is once I get those in, somewhat lined up, I can give myself a rough estimate and actually drill these out so you can get the bolts to go through, because like they are, the bolts will not fit. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those pressed in, just like the other caliper, kind of aligned like that, and then figure out how much I need to drill off to get the bolt holes to go line up. So we got He-Man Sean here. He's actually pressing it in. We just got it in a vise like this, and so essentially using the vise to, as you can see, slowly press the new inserts in. That way it'll fit flush, just like this one and the original ones that came in the calipers did. Pretty self-explanatory. Just make sure you have a vise or some kind of a press and get them all lined up before you try to attempt to put them on. But that's what we're gonna do now. So this is what I was talking about the bolt holes not lining up. As you can see there, it kind of needs to be, I guess, maneuvered, dremeled out. Honestly, a Dremel would probably be best, but I'm just using a drill bit with a drill, and I'm just gonna kind of wallow it out just a little bit there and there so the bolt can go through, and that's what I got for that. And currently, the noise you're hearing is the 14-inch Mustang rotors getting cut on a brake lathe, because those have to go on next. So as you can see here, we got the rotor cut and looking all nice and fresh here. This is the original rotor, and I just wanted to show these absolute size difference that is this kit. As you can see how much bigger the rotor itself is compared to the old one. So the old one is tiny versus the new one that is massive. This massive brake rotor here compared to the old one. I mean, just like the size difference itself is insane. So the stopping power is definitely gonna be increased. I actually got one side put on just as like a test run up here. As you can see, it looks absolutely insane. The bigger brake, the Brembo and everything, all the stuff, the line bolted up and everything. So we're gonna go ahead and work on the other side, which I'm gonna show you a little bit more in depth on the other side. So as you can see, starting off, we got it down, all the old stuff pulled off, the caliper, the rotor, everything. I'm gonna take the new brake caliper here, the S&S kit already installed and everything, pressed in like I stated earlier, and I'm gonna go ahead and actually test fit it to the knuckle, because on the other side, this corrosion here across here actually caused me to not be able to thread it in. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and just test fit this caliper up and make sure it all fits there. So it is a little bit harder to see, but this is what I was talking about. If you look, I have the bolt threaded in there, but it won't fit flush right here on the knuckle. So what I'm gonna have to do is take my die grinder and just die ground down a little bit of this rust and corrosion that is built up here on the knuckle right behind where this caliper sits. That way I can get it to sit flush and not sit so far back like that. So after a little bit of work with the die grinders, you can see we got that kind of polished up now. Everything seems like it fits up. using this right down here. It actually worked out really, really well. So we're gonna go ahead and put the rotor on and get everything mounted. So installing everything for the rotor is actually pretty simple. Just this little spacer that goes along with the brake caliper and the size rotor that you got. All it does is just kind of slide right over top of the spindle here and mount flush like that. Now we can put our rotor on. Also fairly simple. We just line it up and kind of give it a good little shove up there. Now the rotor is installed. Now the fun part is installing the caliper, because you got to kind of balance everything as you put that on. Unfortunately, I don't have anybody else here to film, so I'm gonna put that on by myself. So we've got the caliper all installed and bolted up, just essentially putting it on, like I said, over top of the rotor there, tightening the bolts up from the backside, this one and that one down there. The next part I'm gonna use is take this old caliper, take the bleeder screw off here, or the banjo bolt off there, installing it on the backside of here using the original ones that came off this brake caliper here. So using the original banjo bolts and a new set of crush washers, and using the original line here for the brake. It actually works out pretty well. Got it done on the other side, so let me take everything apart and show you it on this side. So we got the brake line swap from the old caliper to the new caliper here using the banjo bolt off the Brembos and a new set of crush washers there. Everything torqued down to spec, and everything's looking good there. So I'm actually gonna lower the car down a little bit, hook up a brake bleeder, and bleed the brakes, and hopefully get all the air out of the system. It's very important that you do so, especially considering the caliper bleed screws are up at the top and everything's new. So make sure to bleed your brakes for sure, and double check bolting and torque and all of that on all the bolts and everything as far as the whole caliper system goes. So we've got the brake bleeder set up, hooked up, and you can see by the color of the brake fluid that's coming out of this thing how bad it had been from just sitting. It is almost like Coca-Cola coming out instead of a yellowy mix like brake fluid should be, and that's just from it sitting, and I don't think it's ever had the brakes bled. Change your brake fluid, please. If you're gonna actually use the car how it needs to be done, you need to change your brake fluid, because this is kind of unsafe. But we're gonna go ahead and get all that changed out for some .4 and everything rebled across the whole system. Alrighty, so to cap off the video, there is a few things I did want to mention about the kit. One was going over those knuckles. I did have to go down on those a little bit to get them to fit. No issues with the kit itself, just a little bit of rust over time from the age of the car. Next, getting rotors and everything for the car. I use 14-inch factory Brembo rotors from a S197 Mustang GT. Works perfectly, fits great. The next thing is the wheels. The wheels choice, as you saw in the last video, I had to go to FR500s and an 18. That is to clear these massive brakes. If you go with the XTS setup like I did, you have to run 18s. I don't think there's any way possible you can fit 17s on the kit and make them not hit the rotors or the calipers. So definitely have to go with 18s on it, which does kind of make a little bit more of an aggressive but harder wheel choice for these cars. A lot of wheels are in 17s, but honestly for me, I have no issues with the 18s. They look great and they ride good on the car. And then the last thing I do have to say about this kit is to make sure you bleed them well. I had an issue when I first bled. You saw the process of doing that. I didn't bleed the inside bleed the inside bleeders on the calipers. You have to bleed all 4 of the front calipers bleed screws to make sure everything bleeds out properly and you don't have air in the system. That is a big thing that I noticed when I did it myself personally. But other than that, they work phenomenally. On the factory, or on the first tires that I had 225/40 18s on the front. I could lock those up at a 1/4 pedal. And the brake bias was so crazy to the front that the rears weren't even locking at all. And then later on, I upgraded to the 270 or the 265s that are currently on the front of the car, and even in half pedal, it locks up 265 NT 555 G2s, which is great. Great stopping power. The way this kit works is insane. I've actually recently driven a Cobra with the Cobra brakes, and these brakes are like a million times better than the Cobra brakes are. And for the budget, they're cheaper, honestly. The kit cost me in total about $600 with rotors, pads, the kit, the calipers, everything. So it's one of the most cost-efficient setups you can run on these new Edge Mustangs and get the amazing braking power of a modern Mustang. It has better braking in that car than I think my S197 with factory Brembos does, simply because of the pads and everything. So it's a great kit. Big shout out to S&S Engineering for designing this for these cars. They fit great and it works amazingly. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much going to be all for today's video. I thank you so much for clicking on the video. If you don't mind liking and subscribing to the channel, helps keep rolling videos like this out. But I thank you guys so much for watching. And anyways, y'all have a great rest of y'all's day. Peace out, and I'll see you next time.